At the end of the last episode, I asked you a question. If tools alone don't transform outcome, what does? To answer that, I need to take you back 124 years to a decision inside Americans' factories that destroyed some of the biggest industrial companies of their era and built the next generations of billionaires in their place. Because what happened then is happening now. Exactly. The year, it's 1901. A new technology just arrived in American industry. It's called the electric motor. For 200 years before this, factories ran on steam. A massive central steam engine sat in the basement. It turned a giant overhead shaft running the length of the building. Every piece of equipment, every lathe, every press, every conveyor was connected to that shaft by the leather belts. You wanted to add a machine, you ran another belt. You need more speed, you had to rework the entire shaft system. The layout of the factory was dedicated by the engine. The machines had to be clustered close to the shaft. The workflow followed the belts. Everything was sequential because that's what a single central power source requires. Then, electricity shows up. Now, every single machine can have its own motor. The central shaft is unnecessary. The leather belts are unnecessary. The whole physics of the factory has just changed. And here's where it gets interesting. Most factory owners look at the electricity motor and say, great, I will swap out the steam engine and run the shaft with an electricity one. That was the single most expensive mistake of the industrial age. Economists have studied this period in extraordinary detail. The names to know are Paul David at Stanford and Eric Brynjolfsson at MIT. They have documented what actually happened. For the first 30 years after electrification arrived, factory productivity in the United States barely moved. The numbers are almost embarrassing. Electricity motors were everywhere. They were cheaper to run, they were safer, they were more reliable than the steam. And productivity, flat. Why? Because the factory layout didn't change. Owners replaced the engine and keep everything else. Same centralized shaft, same belt-driven workflow, same clustering of machines. They treated electricity as an engine replacement, and they got engine replacement returns, which is to say, almost nothing. The breakthrough came from a small number of factories that did something radical. They tore the whole building apart. They sprayed machine out across an open floor plan. They rearranged workflow around the sequence of the product, not the location of the shaft. They put more motors exactly where the work happened. Those factories saw productivity gain of 30, 40, sometimes 50%. They weren't using better electricity, they were using the same electricity inside a redesigned system. Now, hold that picture in your head because I want to show you something. In 2025, the Penn Wharton budget model projected that the AI will eventually boost US GDP by 3.7% by 2075. But here is the interesting detail. They projected the peak of annual productivity growth will hit in early 2030 at just 0.2% points. Then it fades. 0.2 percentage point. That's it. And that's exactly what the electrification looked like at this stage. A massive transformative technology producing almost nothing in the productivity data for the first generation of adopters. The Geo Budget Lab looked at early 2025 data and said essentially, we cannot yet call this an AI productivity boom. Short-term numbers are not showing what the hype is promising. This is the engine SWAT mindset running in 2026. Executives are treating AI the way those in 1901 factory owners treat electricity. They are saying, great, we will plug AI into what we already do. Same org chart, same meeting cadence, same approval chains, same department boundary, same job descriptions. They are running 2026 AI through a 90-95 operating model. and they are wondering why the numbers aren't moving. Now, and this is important, there are companies that are seeing gains, real ones. The Georgia State and Perkin University study looked at 5 million US patents from 2007 to 2023. They found that generative AI is in fact augmenting white-collar workers. In finance, management, science, engineering, designs, and the firms that absorb it are seeing hiring growth, productivity growth, and higher firm value. Now, read that finding carefully. It's not all firms. It's the firm that actually adapted. The firms that didn't, the ones that just bought Copilot seats and sent out a welcome email, they are in the flat line. Same technology, two completely different outcomes because of one variable: redesign. This is the lesson from a century ago, and it's the lesson from right now. ROI does not come from installing new power. ROI comes from reorganizing the system around the new power. Steam to electricity didn't create value. Factory redesign around electricity created value. Today, AI license don't create value. Workflow redesign around AI creates value. The technology is the same for everyone. The redesign is what separates winners from losers. Which brings us to the uncomfortable question. If AI is electricity, if AI is a foundational system-changing power source, then what is the factory redesign equivalent inside a mother company? Where do you even start? Which process do you touch first? Which ones will quietly absorb AI without producing a single dollar of margin? And which ones, if you redesign them, will be different between 5% growth and a 50% growth? Because in 1901, most factory owners didn't know. They made the engine swap mistake because the answer wasn't obvious. In 2026, most executives are making the exact same mistake for the exact same reason. In the next episode, I'm going to show you the trap, the specific reason AI amplifies broken system instead of fixing them, and why, if you skip this step, you will actively make things worse. This is the AI Productivity Paradox. I'm Cristian Fournies, and I will see you in episode 3.